learning is what life is all about. If you're not learning, you're dying, right? We have, within the next 30 years or so, another 2 billion people who are going to join us on the planet. Almost 100% of those new 2 billion people are going to come from other parts of the world. They will not be in North America, they will not be in Europe, they're going to be in Latin America, they're going to be in Asia, they're going to be in Africa, they're going to be elsewhere. And so we need to, if we really want to welcome, embrace, work with, partner with, compete with, have as our colleagues people from around the world, and including these extra 2 billion people, not to mention the 7 billion plus we've got already, then I think we have to constantly learn because the backgrounds that they come from and the places that they live are crucial to our collective future. The world is changing, and every industry is changing along with it. So if you were part of the automotive industry in early 2000s in the US, you were riding high, you were selling lots of big vehicles, you were making a ton of money. Then in 2009, China passed the US market. For the first time, the United States became the second largest market in the world. And China is now considerably larger. It's going to be soon roughly a third larger than the US. So imagine early 2000s to now 2015, that's just a sea change in the nature of a critical global market. And then if you add to that, so let's think about the disruptive forces in the automotive industry. There are autonomous vehicles and that technology, and you have companies that have never been, like Apple and Google, coming into the market that have never been part of it. You've got new powertrain, you have electric battery vehicles, so if you've been building internal combustion engines for decades, that's something to think about. You have new forms of service providing, so you've got Uber and you've got Lyft and you've got Zipcar who are providing new ways of car ownership. So that's challenging the model of we sell a car and you keep it and drive it for some number of years and then you replace it. And then you've also got the electronics. All the electronics in your laptop can now go in your car. So everything your laptop does in terms of entertainment and communication, you can now do in your car, and probably more as time goes on. So think about all those disruptive forces in an industry that we might have thought 10 years ago was pretty stable. And then you add to that, much of this change is occurring outside of the United States. That's why lifelong learning is important, is because these industries are being transformed before our eyes. One of the many pleasures that I have in life is the chance to work with students. I teach a class at Berkeley called Global Leadership. And the other night I learned from my students about DDQID. And you may not have heard of this company, but Uber certainly has. I think all of us have been noticing that modes of transportation are changing, and that Uber is one of those companies that's out there that has found a very good market and is growing rapidly and would claim to be a dominant world player. Guess who just invested $100 million in Uber's biggest competitor in the United States, Lyft? It's this DDQID. So Uber's tried to go into China. DDQID is a key local player there. Now it's turned into a global rivalry, a global competition. And Lyft is now much more energetic here in the United States because suddenly they have this infusion of $100 million that's helping them to compete effectively in Uber's home market. So this is an example of how there's no border when it comes to competition, and that it can scale very rapidly in ways that are rather unexpected.